The boss froze when he heard the beggar woman singing his missing daughter's song in the street. The night pressed down heavy over New York City. The skyscrapers stood like silent giants, their windows glowing cold and indifferent to the chaos below. Jonathan Hale walked alone down Fifth Avenue, his shoulders hunched against the autumn wind that swept through the streets near Central Park. He was 50 years old, with gray creeping through his temples and a weariness in his eyes that no amount of sleep could cure. His tailored suit was immaculate, $3,000 of Italian wool, but his steps dragged like a man carrying chains. This late-night walk had become his ritual, his only escape, away from the endless board meetings, the ambitious partners clawing their way up, the constant demands of an empire he'd built with his own 2 hands, but couldn't bring himself to care about anymore. The loneliness never offered comfort, though. It never had, because there was a void inside Jonathan Hale that no amount of money, no corporate achievement, no penthouse view could ever fill. 20 years ago, his 5-year-old daughter Emily vanished without a trace. It happened on a Sunday, one of those perfect spring days when the sky stretched blue and endless over Central Park. He'd taken her to the playground near Bethesda Fountain. She wore a yellow sundress. He could still see it clearly, even now. She'd been laughing, her dark hair bouncing as she ran toward the swings. He'd turned away for just a moment, just one moment to answer his phone, some business emergency that seemed so damn important at the time. When he looked back, she was gone. The police searched for months. They put up posters on every lamppost, every subway station. Her face smiled out from newspapers and TV screens. Tips poured in from across the country, every single one leading nowhere. The investigation went cold. The media moved on. The world forgot. But Jonathan never did. His wife Eleanor couldn't bear it. The grief hollowed her out from the inside, left her a shell of the vibrant woman she'd been. She died less than a year after Emily disappeared. The doctors said it was a heart condition, but Jonathan knew better. She died of a broken heart, of hope that withered and died a little more each day. He was left alone in a mansion that echoed with ghosts. So he threw himself into work, built his company into something formidable, something that demanded every ounce of his focus. If he worked hard enough, stayed busy enough, maybe he could outrun the guilt. Maybe he could forget that one moment of distraction that cost him everything. It never worked. Tonight, Jonathan's feet carried him away from the familiar paths near the park. He wandered into the Lower East Side, where the streetlights flickered and died in patches, where the city showed its scars. He didn't usually come this way, but something pulled him forward, some restless need he couldn't name. That's when he heard it. A voice, soft and fragile, drifting from a shadowy doorway. A young woman sat huddled against a grimy brick wall, her knees pulled to her chest. Her clothes were torn and stained, her brown hair tangled and unwashed. She couldn't have been more than 25. Another one of the city's invisible people, the ones everyone looked past, looked through, pretended not to see. But it wasn't her appearance that stopped Jonathan cold in his tracks. It was what she was singing. Her voice was barely a whisper, almost like a prayer. Crystal moon, guard my dreams, take me far away, where fear can't reach me. The world tilted beneath Jonathan's feet. The sounds of the city, the distant sirens, the rumble of traffic, the hum of a million lives, all faded to nothing. There was only that voice, that song, that impossible, devastating melody. He'd written that lullaby 20 years ago, composed it on his guitar late one night when Emily couldn't sleep. She'd been maybe 3 years old, scared of the dark, and he'd made it up right there on the spot, pulling words from some deep place in his heart. It became their song. Every night before bed, he'd hold her close and sing it until her eyes drifted shut. He'd never recorded it, never shared it with anyone. It belonged to them alone, to him and Emily, a secret treasure in a world that would take his daughter away. And now this stranger, this broken young woman shivering in a doorway, was singing it like she'd known it her whole life. Jonathan's hands trembled. His breath caught in his throat. He wanted to run to her, to grab her shoulders and demand answers. How did she know that song? Where did she learn it? But his legs wouldn't move. He stood frozen, tears burning hot behind his eyes. While 20 years of grief crashed over him like a wave, the young woman looked up. Her eyes were large and dark, startled like a deer's. She'd noticed him standing there, staring at her with an expression he couldn't begin to hide. "Sorry, sir," she mumbled, her voice small and ashamed. She looked away quickly, as if expecting to be shooed off or worse, as if she was used to being treated like trash. Jonathan forced himself to move. His hand went automatically to his pocket, pulled out his wallet. He extracted several bills. He didn't even look at how much, and held them out with shaking fingers. She took them carefully, her hands thin and trembling. "Thank you," she whispered. "God bless you." He wanted to speak, wanted to ask her name, ask about the song, ask everything, but the words stuck in his throat like broken glass. What if it meant nothing? What if it was just some cruel coincidence? The universe playing tricks on a grieving father who'd never learned to let go. Or worse, what if it meant everything? He couldn't face that. Not yet. Not standing in a dark street with the weight of 20 years pressing down on his chest. So Jonathan just nodded and walked away. His legs felt wooden, mechanical. Each step took conscious effort, like he was learning to walk all over again. Behind him, the young woman's voice drifted after him, so soft he almost couldn't hear it. "Where fear can't reach me." Jonathan made it 3 blocks before he had to stop and lean against a building. His hand pressed to his chest, his heart hammered against his ribs. His breath came in short, painful gasps. That song, that impossible song. He pulled out his phone with shaking hands, stared at the screen without really seeing it. He needed to call someone. Do something, but what? Tell them he'd heard a homeless woman singing a lullaby he wrote 20 years ago. They'd think he was losing his mind. Maybe he was. Jonathan put the phone away. He straightened his tie, smoothed down his jacket, tried to pull himself together. He was good at that, at presenting a calm exterior, while everything inside him screamed. He walked home through streets that suddenly felt unfamiliar, like he was seeing the city for the first time. Every shadow seemed to hide secrets. Every face in the crowd could be someone he'd lost. His penthouse felt cavernous and cold when he finally reached it. Floor-to-ceiling windows looked out over Manhattan's glittering skyline, a view worth millions that brought him no comfort at all. He poured himself a whiskey he didn't drink, sat in his leather chair staring at nothing. That young woman, those dark, frightened eyes, that voice carrying a melody that should have died with his daughter. Jonathan knew he wouldn't sleep that night. He'd lie awake in his king-sized bed, staring at the ceiling, while questions circled his mind like vultures. He'd replay that moment over and over, the sound of her voice, the way she'd looked up at him, the impossible familiarity of a song that belonged to ghosts. And he knew, with absolute certainty, that he'd go back tomorrow night, and the night after that. However many nights it took, he had to know. Even if the truth destroyed him, Jonathan returned to that same street the next night, and the night after that, and every night for the next 2 weeks. He told himself he was being rational, methodical. This was just due diligence, investigating a curious coincidence before jumping to impossible conclusions. But deep down, he knew the truth. He was chasing a ghost, chasing the faint, desperate hope that maybe, just maybe, the universe hadn't taken everything from him after all. He learned her patterns quickly. She'd appear around 9 o'clock, always in the same general area, a 3-block radius in the Lower East Side where the streetlights were dim and the police didn't patrol much. Sometimes she'd sit in doorways. Other times she'd huddle near the steam vents that breathed warm air up from the subway tunnels below. Jonathan came prepared. He brought food, sandwiches from the deli near his office, hot coffee in disposable cups, protein bars that wouldn't spoil. He brought blankets, a winter coat that was too big for her thin frame. Money, always money, though he was careful not to overwhelm her with too much at once. He didn't want to scare her away. He never asked about the song, not yet. Instead, he just watched, observed, learned who she was, piece by careful piece. Her name was Anna, or at least that's what she went by. She had a wariness about her, like a stray cat that had been kicked too many times. When she spoke, her voice was soft, almost apologetic, as if she was constantly bracing herself to be told she didn't matter. But there were moments, brief, fleeting moments, when something else flickered across her face, a kind of old sadness that seemed too heavy for someone so young. It lived in her eyes, dark and deep like still water. "You don't have to keep doing this," she told him one night, clutching the coffee he'd brought her. Steam rose between them in the cold air. I mean, it's real kind of you and all, but you don't owe me nothing. Jonathan sat down on the curb beside her, keeping a respectful distance. I know I don't, he said quietly. I want to. She studied him with those dark eyes, trying to figure him out. Why? Because you sing a song my daughter knew. Because you might be the answer to 20 years of prayers I stopped believing in. Because I can't walk away even if I wanted to. Because everyone deserves kindness, he said instead. Anna looked away, but not before he saw her eyes glisten. Most people don't see it that way. Over the following nights, she began to open up. Small details at first, offered cautiously like gifts she wasn't sure he'd accept. She was 25 years old, had been living on the street since she was 15. A decade of survival, of learning to be invisible, of nights so cold she thought she'd never wake up. Before that, she'd grown up in an orphanage somewhere in New Jersey. She didn't remember much about it. The memories were hazy, fragmented, like trying to hold on to smoke. It's weird, she said one evening, pulling her knees to her chest. It's like, I know I had a life before the orphanage, you know. I can feel it sometimes, but when I try to remember, it's just pieces, broken glass. Jonathan's heart clenched. What kind of pieces? Anna was quiet for a long moment, her fingers unconsciously playing with something on her wrist. A voice, she said finally. A man's voice, deep but gentle. And hands, big hands that used to hold me, make me feel safe. She laughed, but it sounded hollow. Sounds crazy, right? No, Jonathan said, his voice rough. It doesn't sound crazy at all. She glanced at him, something vulnerable flickering across her face. And there's this song. I don't know where it came from, but I've known it my whole life, since before I can remember. Sometimes I wake up humming it, like it's the only real thing I have left from whoever I used to be. Jonathan had to look away. The tears were too close to the surface, threatening to spill over. He cleared his throat. The orphanage, do you remember its name? St. Catherine's out in Camden? Anna shrugged. I left when I was 15, aged out of the foster system, basically. Didn't have nowhere to go, so I just drifted. Been drifting ever since. That night, Jonathan went home and made calls. By morning, he had the name of the best private investigator in New York City. By noon, the man was sitting in his office, taking notes. I need you to get me everything you can on St. Catherine's Orphanage in Camden, New Jersey, Jonathan said. Specifically, any records of a girl who would have been brought there around 20 years ago. She would have been about 5 years old. No documents, no real name, no past. The investigator, a grizzled former cop named Marcus, raised an eyebrow. 20 years is a long time. Records from places like that, they're not always well kept. I don't care what it costs, Jonathan said. I need to know. 3 days later, Marcus returned with a file folder. It was thinner than Jonathan had hoped. The orphanage closed down 10 years ago, Marcus explained, sliding the folder across the desk. Most of their records were lost or destroyed, but I managed to track down one of the former social workers. She remembered a girl matching your description. Jonathan's hands trembled as he opened the folder. Inside were photocopied pages, intake forms, medical records, incident reports, all of them stamped with dates from 20 years ago. And there, on the first page, in the section marked Personal Effects, was a single line that made Jonathan's world stop spinning. One silver bracelet, engraved. The social worker couldn't remember what the engraving said. Marcus continued. But she remembered the girl never took it off. Wore it every day, like it was the only thing anchoring her to reality. Jonathan looked up. Is she still wearing it? You tell me. You're the one who's been visiting her every night. That evening, Jonathan brought Anna soup from a place near Chinatown, hot and steaming in a paper container. They sat together on the steps of an abandoned building, the city humming around them. As Anna ate, Jonathan watched her hands, and there it was, the silver bracelet, tarnished and worn, circling her thin wrist. She wore it like Marcus said, like it was part of her skin, like removing it would mean losing herself completely. That's a beautiful bracelet, Jonathan said, keeping his voice casual. Anna glanced down at it. a soft smile crossing her face. "Thanks. I've had it forever. Don't even remember getting it. But I can't take it off. Sounds stupid, but it feels like if I lose this, I lose everything. Can I see it?" She hesitated, then held out her wrist. The bracelet caught the streetlight, silver glinting in the dark. Jonathan leaned closer, his heart hammering. There was an inscription on the inside, worn almost smooth by years of wear. He had to squint to make out the letters. "Emily, my little star," the words he'd had engraved 20 years ago. The bracelet he'd given his daughter for her 4th birthday. The world tilted. Jonathan pulled back quickly, afraid his expression would give everything away. His throat was so tight he could barely breathe. "You okay, mister?" Anna asked, concern in her voice. "Yeah," he managed. "Yeah, I'm fine, just tired." He stayed with her for another hour, making small talk, pretending his entire world hadn't just shattered and reformed around this impossible truth. When he finally left, his legs felt like water. He walked 3 blocks before he had to stop and lean against a building, gasping for air. Emily? She was Emily, his daughter, his little girl, right there, alive. After 20 years of believing she was gone forever, Jonathan pulled out his phone with shaking hands and called Marcus. "I need you to arrange something for me," he said. "Tomorrow morning, a DNA test, completely confidential." "You found something," Marcus said. It wasn't a question. "I found everything." The next morning, Jonathan met Anna at a clinic in Midtown. He'd told her he wanted to help her get a health checkup, make sure she was okay after years on the street. She'd been hesitant but agreed, touched by his continued kindness. "You're like the nicest person I've ever met," she said as they sat in the waiting room. "I don't get it. Why do you care so much?" "Because you're my daughter. Because I've been searching for you for 20 years. Because I failed you once and I won't fail you again. Everyone deserves someone who cares," Jonathan said. The DNA test was quick. A simple cheek swab, painless and fast. The technician said. Results would take 2 weeks, 14 days. Jonathan had to wait 14 days to confirm what his heart already knew. They were the longest 2 weeks of his life. The days crawled by like wounded animals. Jonathan tried to maintain his routine. Board meetings, conference calls, signing documents his assistants placed in front of him. But his mind was elsewhere, lost in a fog of hope and terror that left him unable to focus on anything else. He still visited Anna every night. If anything, he went earlier now, stayed longer. He told himself he was being careful, not wanting to raise suspicions or scare her off. But the truth was simpler and more desperate. He couldn't stay away. Every moment not spent with her felt like waste. Like sand slipping through his fingers, she'd started to trust him. He could see it in the way she smiled when he approached, the way her shoulders relaxed instead of tensing up. She saved questions for him now, asked his opinion on things, shared small observations about her day, like she was testing the waters, seeing if this strange kindness was real or just another trick the world was playing on her. "You got a family?" she asked one evening. They were sitting on a bench near an old playground, sharing Chinese takeout Jonathan had brought. The swings creaked in the wind behind them, empty and haunting. Jonathan's chest tightened. "I did once." "What happened?" He stared at the container in his hands. "Chopsticks forgotten. I lost them. My wife died a long time ago, and my daughter..." His voice cracked. "My daughter disappeared 20 years ago." Anna went very still beside him. "I'm sorry," she whispered. I can't even imagine." She was 5 years old. We were at Central Park. I looked away for just a second and she was gone, like she'd never existed at all. The words spilled out of him. Decades of grief he'd kept locked away. The police searched everywhere. We had hundreds of tips, thousands of volunteers. But we never found her after a while. Everyone assumed she was dead. "But you didn't," Anna said softly. "Assume that?" "I mean," Jonathan looked at her, this young woman with dark eyes that seemed to carry their own ancient sorrow. "No, I never could. Maybe that makes me a fool. But I always felt like I'd know if she was gone, I'd feel it somehow. Does that sound crazy?" "No," Anna said. She set down her food and hugged her knees to her chest. "I get it. Sometimes you just know things. even when they don't make sense. They sat in silence for a while, listening to the city breathe around them. Finally, Anna spoke again, her voice barely above a whisper. "Can I tell you something weird?" "Of course. Sometimes I have these dreams. Not dreams exactly. More like memories, maybe. But they can't be real because they don't match anything I remember from the orphanage." She picked at a loose thread on her jacket. "There's this place, a big room with windows everywhere, and sunlight coming in. And I'm small, really small. There's music playing, and someone's holding me, spinning me around. I'm laughing so hard I can barely breathe." Jonathan's throat closed up. He remembered that, teaching Emily to dance in their living room, the one with the floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Central Park. She'd stand on his feet, and he'd waltz her around while Eleanor played piano. "And then there's this other one," Anna continued. "I'm in a garden or a park maybe, and there's flowers everywhere, yellow ones, and I'm picking them, making a bouquet, and someone's telling me I'm their little star." She laughed, but it sounded broken. "Stupid, right? Probably just things I saw in movies or something, and my brain made them into fake memories." "They don't sound stupid," Jonathan managed. His hands were shaking. He gripped the edge of the bench to steady them. Anna glanced at him, concern crossing her face. "You okay? You look pale." "I'm fine. Just, it's cold out here." She studied him for another moment, then nodded slowly. "Yeah, it is." Jonathan couldn't take much more. He needed that DNA result, needed confirmation that he wasn't losing his mind, wasn't seeing connections that didn't exist. The waiting was killing him. On day 12, Marcus called. Results came in early. The investigator said, "You want me to bring them to your office?" "No." Jonathan's voice was sharp. "I'll come to you." 20 minutes later, he was sitting in Marcus's cramped office in Queens, staring at a manila envelope on the desk between them. His entire future was inside that envelope. 20 years of searching, of hoping, of grieving. All of it came down to this single piece of paper. "You sure you want to do this?" Marcus asked quietly. "Once you know, you can't unknow it." Jonathan reached for the envelope with trembling hands. "I have to know." He pulled out the document. His eyes scanned the technical jargon, the columns of numbers and percentages that meant nothing to him. Then he saw it, highlighted in yellow at the bottom of the page. Probability of paternity, 99.999%. The paper slipped from his fingers. Jonathan pressed his hands to his face, and the sound that came out of him was something between a sob and a laugh. 20 years of weight, of guilt, of endless searching. It all came crashing down at once. "She's alive," he whispered through his tears. "My God, she's alive." Marcus said nothing, just pushed a box of tissues across the desk and waited. Jonathan cried for what felt like hours but was probably only minutes. Decades of grief poured out of him, leaving him hollow and shaking. When he finally looked up, his face was wet and his eyes were red. "What do I do now?" he asked. How do I tell her?" "Carefully," Marcus said. "She's been through hell. You spring this on her wrong, it could break her." "I know, Jonathan wiped his face. "I found her, Marcus, after all this time. I actually found her." "You did, question is, what happens next?" Jonathan stood up, steadying himself against the desk. "I need to think, figure out the right way to approach this." He picked up the DNA results, folded them carefully, and slipped them into his jacket pocket. "Thank you for everything. Just doing my job." Marcus stood and shook his hand. "But Jonathan, be careful. I did some digging into that orphanage situation. Something doesn't add up." "What do you mean?" "A 5-year-old doesn't just show up at an orphanage with no paperwork, no ID, nothing. That's not how it works. Even 20 years ago. Someone brought her there deliberately. Someone who wanted her disappeared." The words hit Jonathan like ice water. You think someone took her, on purpose?" "I'm saying it's worth investigating, because if someone went to that much trouble to make her vanish..." Marcus met his eyes. "They might not be happy she's been found." Jonathan walked out into the cold afternoon, Marcus's warning echoing in his head. Someone wanted Emily gone. The question was who, and why. That night he went to see Anna again. She was in her usual spot, wrapped in the coat he'd given her, humming softly to herself. When she saw him, her face lit up in a way that made his heart ache. "Hey," she said. "Wasn't sure you'd come tonight." "I'll always come," Jonathan said quietly. He sat down beside her, close enough to see the silver bracelet glinting on her wrist. "Emily, my little star." "You okay?" Anna asked. "You seem different tonight." "I'm fine, just had a long day." He pulled out a sandwich and handed it to her. "Here, roast beef, your favorite." She smiled and took it. "You remember?" "I remember everything," Jonathan said. They sat together in comfortable silence, and Jonathan watched his daughter eat, his little girl, who'd survived 20 years of hell, and somehow still had kindness in her eyes. He wanted to tell her everything, wanted to pull her into his arms and never let go. But Marcus was right. He had to be careful, had to do this right, because somewhere out there, someone had taken his daughter from him once, and if they knew she was back. Jonathan looked at Anna, memorizing every detail of her face. Whatever happened next, whatever dangers were lurking in the shadows, he made himself a promise. He'd already lost her once. He wouldn't lose her again. Not ever. Jonathan didn't sleep that night. He lay in his king-sized bed staring at the ceiling, the DNA results burning a hole in his jacket pocket where he'd left it hanging by the door. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw that number, 99%. Scientific certainty, irrefutable proof. Anna was Emily, his daughter. His little girl who'd vanished 20 years ago was alive, breathing, surviving on the streets just miles from where he lived in luxury. The coincidence, no, the cruelty of it was almost too much to bear. How many times had he walked past her without knowing? How many nights had she slept in the cold while he was warm in his mansion? How long had she been out there, alone and invisible, while he'd convinced himself she was gone forever? The guilt was a living thing inside him, clawing at his insides. Around 4 a.m, Jonathan gave up on sleep. He went to his study and pulled out a box he kept hidden in the back of his closet. Inside were photographs, baby shoes, a stuffed rabbit worn soft with love, Emily's things, the fragments he'd saved from a life that ended too soon. He pulled out a photo of her at 4 years old. She was laughing, her dark hair catching the sunlight, wearing the yellow dress she'd loved so much. He held it next to his phone, where he'd secretly taken a picture of Anna a few nights ago. The resemblance was there if you knew what to look for. The shape of her eyes, the way her mouth curved when she smiled. 20 years and a lifetime of hardship had changed her, but underneath it all, she was still his Emily. Jonathan traced the photo with his finger. "I'm so sorry," he whispered to the little girl frozen in time. "I'm so sorry I couldn't protect you." But she was alive. Against all odds, against every rational expectation, she was alive. And now he had a chance, maybe his only chance, to make things right. The question was how. He couldn't just tell her, "Hey, remember those dreams you mentioned? They're real. You're my daughter who was kidnapped 20 years ago." The truth would shatter her. Hell, she might not even believe him, might think he was some crazy rich guy with a savior complex trying to manipulate her. No, he needed to be smart about this. Patient. Build more trust first. Create a foundation strong enough to handle the weight of the truth. But God, the waiting was killing him. Jonathan went to the office that morning running on coffee and sheer willpower. His assistant took one look at him and asked if he was feeling all right. "Fine," he lied. "Just didn't sleep well." "You have the quarterly review meeting in an hour," she reminded him. And Mrs. Hale wanted to speak with you about the charity gala." Victoria? Jonathan had almost forgotten about his wife in the chaos of the past 2 weeks. They lived more like business partners than spouses these days. Separate bedrooms, separate lives, united only by the company they both served. She appeared in his office doorway right on cue, impeccably dressed as always. Victoria was elegant in that cold, calculated way. Every hair in place, every gesture measured. She'd married him 5 years after Eleanor died, and Jonathan had convinced himself it was what he needed. Someone practical, someone who wouldn't remind him of everything he'd lost. He'd been wrong. "Jonathan," she said, her smile not quite reaching her eyes. "You look terrible. Are you ill?" "Just tired." She stepped inside, closing the door behind her. You've been distracted lately. Missing meetings, leaving early. The board is starting to notice. I have personal matters to attend to. Personal matters? Victoria's perfectly sculpted eyebrow arched. What kind of personal matters require sneaking off to the Lower East Side every night? Jonathan's blood went cold. Excuse me. Did you think I wouldn't notice? We may not share a bed anymore, Jonathan, but we share a life, a company, a reputation. She crossed her arms. So I'll ask again, what are you doing in that part of town? His mind raced. How much did she know? How long had she been watching him? I'm helping someone, he said carefully. Someone who needs it. How noble! Victoria's voice dripped with sarcasm. And does this someone have a name? That's not your concern. Everything you do is my concern. She leaned against his desk, studying him like a specimen under glass. You're acting strange, Jonathan. Erratic. People are talking, wondering if the pressure is finally getting to you. What people? Board members, investors, people who matter. She straightened. I'm trying to protect you here. Protect us. But you need to get whatever this is out of your system before it damages everything we've built. Jonathan stood, anger finally cutting through his exhaustion. We didn't build anything, Victoria. I built this company, long before you came along. Her face went cold. Is that what you tell yourself? That you did it all alone? She moved toward the door, then paused. Be careful, Jonathan. Whatever you're involved in, make sure it's worth the risk, because you have a lot more to lose than you think. She left, closing the door with a soft click that sounded like a threat. Jonathan sank back into his chair, his heart pounding. Victoria was watching him, which meant he needed to be more careful. The last thing he needed was her interference, her questions, her cold calculation getting in the way of what mattered most. He pulled out his phone and called Marcus. I need to know everything about my wife, he said when the investigator answered. Victoria Hale, where she came from, what she did before we married. Everything? You think she's involved somehow? I don't know, but she's asking questions, and until I know I can trust her, Jonathan rubbed his temples. Just look into it quietly. Will do. That evening, Jonathan went to see Anna despite Victoria's warning. Maybe because of it, he wasn't going to let anyone keep him from his daughter. Not anymore. He found her in a different spot tonight, tucked into a doorway near a closed bodega. She looked smaller somehow, more fragile, when she saw him approaching. Relief flooded her face. I was worried you wouldn't come, she said. Why wouldn't I? I don't know. Just, people don't usually stick around, you know. They help for a while, feel good about themselves, then disappear. She pulled her knees to her chest. I wouldn't blame you if you did. Jonathan sat down beside her, closer than usual. I'm not going anywhere, Anna. I promise you that. She looked at him with those dark eyes, Emily's eyes, and something vulnerable flickered across her face. Why? Why do you care so much about me? You don't even know me. Because you're my daughter. Because I've been searching for you for 20 years. Because I failed you once and I'll spend the rest of my life making up for it. Maybe I see something in you, Jonathan said instead. Someone who deserves better than what the world's given her. Someone worth fighting for. Anna's eyes welled up. Nobody's ever said anything like that to me before. Then nobody's been paying attention. She wiped at her face quickly, embarrassed by the tears. You're gonna make me cry talking like that. Jonathan pulled out the dinner he'd brought. Chicken soup from the deli. Still hot. Here, eat something. They sat together in companionable silence while Anna ate. Jonathan watched her, memorizing every detail. The way she held the container with both hands to warm them. The way she closed her eyes when she took the first sip. Savoring it. The way the silver bracelet caught the streetlight. His daughter, alive, real. Can I ask you something? Anna said suddenly. Anything? That daughter you lost, the one who disappeared. What was her name? Jonathan's throat closed up. Emily, Emily, Anna repeated softly. That's pretty. What was she like? She was... He had to stop, collect himself. She was full of light, always laughing, always curious about everything. She loved yellow flowers and dancing. And this song I wrote for her. Anna went very still. A song. Yeah, a lullaby. I'd sing it to her every night before bed. He looked at her. You remind me of her sometimes. The way you hum when you think nobody's listening. The way you notice small things. I'm sorry, Anna whispered, that you lost her. Me too. They sat in silence, the weight of unspoken truth hanging between them. Jonathan wanted so badly to tell her, to end this charade and pull her into the life she should have had all along. But not yet. Not until he understood what had happened to her, who had taken her, and whether they were still out there, watching, waiting. Victoria Hale stood at the floor-to-ceiling windows of her corner office, watching the city sprawl beneath her like a chessboard. 50 stories below, people scurried like ants, unaware they were pieces in games far bigger than themselves. She'd always understood that about life. It was a game, and the ones who won were the ones willing to do what others wouldn't. Her phone buzzed. A text from her private investigator. Subject visited Lower East Side again tonight. Same location. Met with young female. Approximately 25 years old. Victoria's perfectly manicured fingers tightened around the phone. For 2 weeks now, Jonathan had been sneaking off to the worst part of the city. 2 weeks of watching him become increasingly distracted, increasingly secretive. She'd thought maybe he'd taken a mistress. Some pathetic midlife crisis cliché that would have been manageable, embarrassing but manageable. But this, a homeless girl, something else was going on. Something that made Victoria's carefully constructed world feel suddenly unstable. She pulled up the photos her investigator had sent. Grainy surveillance shots of Jonathan sitting on a curb next to a thin young woman in dirty clothes. In one photo, he was handing her food. In another, they were just talking. His expression softer than Victoria had seen in years. Who was she? And why did Jonathan care? Victoria enlarged one of the photos, studying the girl's face. Dark hair, haunted eyes, young but worn down by life. Nothing special. Nothing that should warrant this kind of attention from a man like Jonathan Hale. Unless, a memory flickered. 20 years old now, but still sharp. A small girl with dark hair, laughing in Central Park. Emily, Jonathan's daughter from his first marriage. The child who'd vanished and nearly destroyed him. Victoria had met Jonathan 3 years after the disappearance. He'd been a shell of a man back then, drowning in grief and guilt, barely holding his company together. She'd seen an opportunity, a brilliant, wealthy man who was too broken to see what was right in front of him. She'd been patient, played the role of understanding friend, then confidant, then eventually wife, and she'd done it well. Jonathan had given her everything. The Hale name, a position in his company, access to wealth beyond her wildest dreams. But she'd always known the truth. She was second place, a replacement for the family he'd lost. She lived in the shadow of a dead wife and a missing child, and no matter what she did, she'd never be more than that. The thought had eaten at her for years, the unfairness of it. Victoria set down her phone and walked to her private bar, poured herself a scotch. Neat. She took a long sip, letting the burn focus her thoughts. What if this girl wasn't just some random homeless person? What if Jonathan had found something? Someone connected to Emily. The possibility sent ice through her veins. She pulled out her phone and dialed her investigator. He answered on the first ring. "I need everything on that girl," Victoria said. "Name, background, where she came from. I want to know who she is and why my husband is so interested in her. Already working on it, Mrs. Hale should have something by tomorrow. Make it tonight." She hung up and finished her scotch. Her mind racing. If Jonathan had somehow found a lead on Emily after all these years, if he thought there was even a chance his daughter was alive, it would change everything. The company, the will, the carefully balanced power structure Victoria had spent years building. All of it hinged on Jonathan remaining who he was now. A man without heirs. A man who'd eventually need to think about succession, about legacy. A man who might eventually leave everything to his loyal wife. But if Emily came back, if she was alive somewhere, Victoria would lose it all. The legitimate heir would reclaim her birthright, and Victoria would be pushed aside. Again, always second place, always the replacement. No, she wouldn't let that happen. Not after everything she'd sacrificed, everything she'd done. Her phone buzzed again. Another text found her. Name, Anna, age 25. Living on street since 15. Before that, Est. Catherine's orphanage in Camden, NJ, arrived there age 5. No documentation, no known family. Victoria read the message 3 times, her pulse quickening with each word. Set. Catherine's. Camden, age 5. 20 years ago. The timeline matched perfectly. Her hands began to shake. She set down her glass before she dropped it. It couldn't be. It was impossible. But the orphanage, Camden, that's where Victoria had told them to take her 20 years ago. Victoria had been nobody, just another ambitious woman in New York, working as a paralegal, watching wealthy men pass her on the street without a second glance. She'd been dating Jonathan's business partner at the time, a relationship of convenience more than passion, but it gave her access, gave her a view into a world she desperately wanted to be part of. Then she'd met Jonathan at a company event. Handsome, brilliant, building an empire. Everything she'd ever wanted, except he was married, devoted to his wife Eleanor and their daughter Emily. A perfect little family that Victoria could never penetrate. So she'd waited and watched. And when the opportunity presented itself that Sunday in Central Park, when she'd seen Jonathan distracted on his phone and Emily wandering toward the playground alone, Victoria had made a choice. She'd followed the girl, smiled at her, told her she was a friend of Daddy's, that he'd sent her to take Emily on a special adventure. The child had been so trusting, so innocent, had taken Victoria's hand without question. Victoria had driven her to a woman she'd found through less than legal channels, paid her $10,000 in cash to take the girl to an orphanage far away, make sure there was no paper trail, no way to trace her back, just make her disappear into the system like thousands of other forgotten children. The woman had promised, had sworn it would be handled, and then Victoria had gone home, called in sick to work, and waited for the news, for the police sirens, for Jonathan's world to shatter. It had worked perfectly. Emily vanished, Eleanor deteriorated and died. Jonathan spiraled into grief, and 3 years later, when he was finally starting to rebuild, Victoria had been there, understanding, supportive, patient. She'd won, gotten everything she wanted, the man, the lifestyle, the power, and she'd told herself the girl was fine, adopted by some nice family probably, living a normal life somewhere. It wasn't like she'd killed her, just relocated her, given herself a chance at the life she deserved. But now, Victoria's mind raced. If that girl on the streets was Emily, if she'd never been adopted, if she'd aged out of the system and ended up homeless, if Jonathan had somehow found her, the walls were closing in. She grabbed her phone and called her investigator again. "I need you to do something for me," she said, her voice steady despite the panic clawing at her insides. "That girl Jonathan's been meeting. I need to know if he's had any contact with medical facilities, DNA testing labs, anything like that." There was a pause. "You think he's running tests? Just find out." She hung up and poured another scotch, her hands steadier now. Because panic was useless. Victoria hadn't gotten this far by falling apart when things got complicated. She'd handled Emily once. She could handle this too. If the girl really was Emily, if Jonathan knew or was about to find out, then Victoria needed to act fast. Discredit her, make Jonathan doubt, plant seeds of suspicion that this was just some con artist who'd researched his past and was playing him for money. It wouldn't be hard. The girl had no documentation, no proof of who she was beyond some DNA test. Victoria could challenge it, hire lawyers, drag it out in courts for years. And if that didn't work, Victoria stared out at the city again, at all those tiny people living their tiny lives, unaware they could be erased with the right amount of money and motivation. She'd made Emily disappear once. She could do it again, this time, permanently. The thought should have horrified her, should have made her pause, reconsider, remember there were lines. Even she shouldn't cross. But Victoria Hale had stopped believing in lines a long time ago. All she believed in now was winning, and she'd do whatever it took to keep what was hers. Victoria's campaign began subtly, the way poison works, slow and invisible until it's too late. First, she called an emergency board meeting, sat at the head of the conference table with perfect posture and manufactured concern etched on her face. Around her, the company's most influential shareholders leaned forward, waiting. "I'm worried about Jonathan," she said, her voice soft with just the right touch of reluctance. "I hate bringing this to you, but as his wife and as vice president, I have a responsibility to this company." Richard Chen. The oldest board member frowned. "What kind of concern?" "He's been different lately, distracted, missing important meetings, making erratic decisions." Victoria paused, letting the words settle. "And he's been disappearing at night, going to dangerous parts of the city. When I asked him about it, he became defensive, angry, even." Murmurs rippled around the table. "Are you suggesting—" Another board member started. "I'm not suggesting anything," Victoria cut in smoothly. "I'm just asking that we all keep an eye on him. Jonathan built this company from nothing. He's brilliant, but grief can do terrible things to a person, even after 20 years. We all know what he went through with his daughter." She let the implication hang in the air. Jonathan Hale, the grieving father who never recovered, finally cracking under the weight of his loss. "Perhaps he needs time off," someone suggested. "A leave of absence to get his head straight." Victoria nodded sympathetically. "That might be wise, though of course he'd need to agree to it voluntarily. Unless—" She trailed off meaningfully. "Unless what?" Richard asked. "Unless his behavior becomes erratic enough that we need to consider more serious measures. For his own protection, of course. And the company's." The seed was planted by the time the meeting ended. Half the board was questioning Jonathan's mental stability. The other half was at least considering the possibility. Victoria returned to her office satisfied. Step 1 complete. Step 2 was more direct. That evening, while Jonathan was out on his nightly pilgrimage to the Lower East Side, Victoria made a call. The man who answered spoke with a thick accent and asked no unnecessary questions. He'd done work for her before, the kind of work that required discretion and a complete absence of conscience. "There's a girl," Victoria said. "Homeless, hangs around the Lower East Side near Delancey Street. I need her scared, not hurt. Just scared enough to leave town." "How scared?" "Enough that she understands her life depends on it." There was a pause. "This gonna come back on you?" "No. And even if it did, you don't know me. We've never met. This conversation never happened. Costs extra for that kind of insurance. I don't care what it costs. Just get it done." She hung up and poured herself another drink, ignoring the tremor in her hands. This was necessary. This was survival. If she let Emily, if that's who the girl really was, if she let her come back and reclaim what was hers, Victoria would have nothing. Worse than nothing. She'd be exposed as the fraud she was, living in a house bought with another woman's tragedy. No, she'd come too far to lose now. The next morning, Jonathan came into the office looking even worse than usual. His suit was rumpled, his eyes bloodshot, his normally precise hair disheveled. Victoria approached him in the hallway, placing a gentle hand on his arm. "Jonathan, are you all right? You look exhausted." He pulled away from her touch. "I'm fine. You're clearly not fine, please. Talk to me. Whatever's going on, we can handle it together. We're partners, remember? Are we?" Jonathan's eyes were hard. "Because it feels more like you're investigating me." Victoria's expression shifted to hurt. "I'm trying to protect you. The board is asking questions, Jonathan. People are worried. Let them worry. They're talking about a psychiatric evaluation, a competency hearing." She lowered her voice. "I'm trying to prevent that, but you have to help me. Tell me what's going on. Who is this girl you've been visiting?" Jonathan's jaw clenched. For a moment, she thought he might actually tell her. Then his expression shuttered closed. "Stay out of it, Victoria. This has nothing to do with you or the company." He walked away, leaving her standing in the hallway, fury burning beneath her carefully maintained composure. Fine. If he wouldn't tell her, she'd find out herself. That night, Anna was sitting in her usual spot when the men appeared, 3 of them, emerging from the shadows like wolves. She scrambled to her feet, but they were already surrounding her. "Anna, right," the tallest one said. He had cold eyes and a smile that didn't reach them. "We need to have a conversation." "I don't know you," she said, her voice shaking. "Leave me alone." "See, that's where you're wrong. You do know someone rich guy comes around here every night playing Good Samaritan." The man stepped closer. "That needs to stop. I don't understand." Sure you do. You're a smart girl. You figured out he's loaded, and you're working some kind of angle, playing the poor, helpless victim so he'll feel sorry for you. The man's smile turned cruel. But here's the thing. He's got people who care about him. People who don't like seeing him taken advantage of. I'm not taking advantage of anyone. Don't matter what you think. What matters is, you need to disappear. Tonight, leave the city and don't come back. Anna's heart hammered against her ribs. And if I don't? The man pulled something from his jacket. A knife that caught the streetlight. Then things get messy. And we don't want that. Do we? Pretty girl like you, all alone on these streets. Anything could happen. Accidents, violence. People go missing all the time in this city. Tears streamed down Anna's face. Please. No, please, just yes or no. You leaving? She nodded frantically, unable to speak. Good girl. The man tucked the knife away. You got 24 hours. We see you around here after that. Next time won't be a conversation. They melted back into the darkness, leaving Anna shaking against the wall, gasping for air. She stayed there for an hour, too terrified to move. When she finally stood, her legs nearly gave out. She gathered her few belongings. The coat Jonathan had given her, the blanket, some money, and stuffed them into a plastic bag. She had to leave, had to run. Whatever connection she'd started to feel with Jonathan, whatever hope had begun to bloom in her chest, it was too dangerous. Those men would kill her. She could see it in their eyes. Anna started walking, no destination in mind, just away from that street, that neighborhood, that impossible kindness that had made her believe, for just a moment, that her life could be something more than survival. She made it to a bus station near Times Square and found a bench in the corner. She'd wait until morning, then figure out where to go. Maybe Boston, maybe Philadelphia, somewhere far enough that Jonathan wouldn't find her and those men wouldn't follow. Somewhere she could disappear again. As she huddled on the bench, clutching her plastic bag of belongings, Anna pulled out the one thing she'd never part with, her silver bracelet. She turned it over in her hands, reading the inscription she'd memorized years ago. Emily, my little star. She'd always wondered who Emily was, wondered if it was her real name, from a life she couldn't remember. If somewhere out there, someone had loved her enough to give her this. Now she'd never know. Anna slipped the bracelet back on her wrist and closed her eyes, humming softly to herself. That song, the one she'd known forever, the one that felt like home even when she had none. Crystal Moon, guard my dreams. Maybe, wherever she ended up, she'd find peace, find safety, or maybe she'd just keep running forever. Either way, she was done hoping for rescue, done believing someone like Jonathan could actually save her. The world didn't work that way. Not for girls like her. Jonathan arrived at Anna's usual spot at 8:30 that evening, carrying soup and a new pair of winter gloves he'd bought during lunch. The temperature had dropped, and he'd noticed her hands were getting chapped from the cold. But the doorway was empty. He waited for 20 minutes, telling himself she was just late. Maybe she'd found a warmer spot for the evening. Maybe she was at a shelter. There were a dozen reasonable explanations for why she wasn't there, but something in his gut twisted with unease. By 9:30, he was walking the 3-block radius where she usually stayed, checking every doorway, every alley, every steam vent. Nothing. He asked other homeless people if they'd seen her. Most ignored him. One old man said he thought he'd seen her earlier. Heading toward the bus station. Jonathan's unease turned to full-blown panic. He ran the 6 blocks to the nearest station, his expensive shoes slapping against wet pavement, his breath coming in ragged gasps. Inside, the fluorescent lights were harsh and unforgiving. Rows of plastic seats held travelers waiting for departures to Philadelphia, Boston, Washington, D.C. He scanned every face, desperation clawing at his chest. There, in the far corner, hunched over with a plastic bag clutched to her chest. Anna. She looked up, and the fear in her eyes nearly broke him. She shook her head frantically, standing and backing away. Anna, wait. No. Her voice was barely audible over the station's announcements. You need to stay away from me. Jonathan stopped, hands raised. What happened? What's wrong? I can't. I have to go. I have to leave. Leave where, Anna? Talk to me. She was shaking. tears streaming down her face. They said they'd kill me. They said if I didn't leave the city, they'd... Her voice broke. Jonathan's blood turned to ice. Who said that? Who threatened you? I don't know. 3 men. They knew about you. They said I was taking advantage of you, that I needed to disappear. She wiped her face roughly. And they're right. I shouldn't have let you keep coming around. I shouldn't have. This is my fault. No. Jonathan stepped closer, his voice fierce. None of this is your fault. Listen to me. I can't listen. Don't you understand? They had a knife. They said accidents happen to girls like me all the time. She clutched the plastic bag tighter. I have to go. I have to run. You're not running anywhere. Jonathan pulled out his phone. I'm calling the police. No. Anna's voice rose in panic. No police. You think the cops care about what happens to someone like me? I'm nobody. I'm nothing. Those men will find me anyway. And next time, you're not nothing. Jonathan's voice cracked. You're not nobody, you're... He stopped himself, the truth burning on his tongue. You're my daughter. You're everything. But he couldn't tell her like this. Not here. Not when she was terrified and ready to bolt. Please, he said instead. Just come with me. Somewhere safe. A hotel? My apartment. Anywhere but here. Anna shook her head. You don't get it. Being near you is what made me a target, those men. They wanted me away from you. If you stay, I can protect you. You can't protect me from people like that. Her voice echoed through the station. A few travelers glanced over. You're a good man, okay? You've been kinder to me than anyone in my entire life. But you're not... You can't. She took a shuddering breath. I don't belong in your world. I never did. This was stupid. Thinking what? That maybe I could matter. That maybe someone could actually care what happens to me. Fresh tears spilled over. But that's not how life works. Not for people like me. Jonathan's heart was breaking. Anna, please. Just give me a chance to... I'm sorry. She turned toward the departure gates. Thank you for everything, really. But I have to go. Wait. Jonathan grabbed her arm gently. She flinched, and he immediately let go, hating himself for scaring her. Just tell me one thing. Where did you get that bracelet? Anna looked down at her wrist, confused. What? The silver bracelet. You've worn it every day since I met you. Where did it come from? I don't know. I've always had it, since before I can remember. She touched it protectively. Why? Because I gave it to my daughter for her 4th birthday. I had it engraved with her name. Jonathan's voice was steady now, determined. Emily, my little star. Anna's face went pale. What are you saying? I'm saying that bracelet is the only thing my daughter had when she disappeared 20 years ago. I'm saying I've been looking for her every day since. I'm saying... He took a breath. I had a DNA test run 2 weeks ago, you and me. It came back 99% positive. The plastic bag slipped from Anna's fingers, hitting the floor with a soft thud. That's not possible, she whispered. It's true, Anna. Your real name is Emily. You're my daughter. She stared at him like he'd lost his mind. No, that's... You're confused or lying or... I can show you the results. The hospital records from when you were born. Photos of you as a baby wearing that exact bracelet. Jonathan's voice broke. Please. I know this is overwhelming. I know it sounds insane. But it's the truth. You're my daughter. And I've been searching for you for 20 years. Anna backed away, shaking her head. This is crazy. I can't. I know it's a lot. But you have to believe me. Why? The word came out harsh. Why should I believe anything, for all I know? You're the one running some kind of sick game. Rich guy finds homeless girl, makes up some story about her being his long-lost daughter. Why would I do that? I don't know. Money. Some twisted fantasy. People do crazy things. She was shouting now, drawing more attention. I don't know you, I don't know anything. And those men, they said, they knew about you. They knew I was with you. What if you sent them? I would never. I don't know that. Anna grabbed her bag. I don't know anything anymore. I need to go. I need to think. She ran. Jonathan started after her, but she was faster, more desperate. She darted through the gates, into the crowd of travelers, and disappeared. No. Jonathan pushed through people, frantically searching, but she was gone, vanished into the city just like she had 20 years ago. He stood there, breathing hard, as the reality crashed over him. He'd found his daughter, confirmed it scientifically, finally told her the truth, and she'd run. Jonathan stumbled to a bench and sat down heavily, his head in his hands. He'd handled it wrong, dropped it on her all at once instead of building up to it, scared her even more than those thugs had. Those thugs. Jonathan's grief turned to fury. Someone had threatened his daughter, sent men with knives to scare her into leaving town, and he had a pretty good idea who. He pulled out his phone and called Marcus. "I need you to find her," Jonathan said when the investigator answered. "Anna. Emily, she ran. She's somewhere in the city, probably trying to leave on a bus or train. I need to know where she goes. What happened? Someone threatened her, sent men to make her leave town." Jonathan's voice was ice. "And I need you to find out who. Because when I do, they're going to wish they'd never touched her. Jonathan, just do it. Please." He hung up and sat in the bus station for another hour, hoping Anna would come back, hoping she'd believe him, but she didn't. Finally, Jonathan went home to his empty penthouse, poured himself a drink he didn't taste, stared at the DNA results he'd carried in his wallet since the day they arrived. Probability of paternity, 99.99%. He'd found his daughter and lost her again in the same night. But this time, he knew the truth. Knew she was out there, knew someone was trying to keep them apart, and he'd be damned if he let that happen. Tomorrow, he'd find her. He'd make her believe him. He'd keep her safe, and whoever sent those men would pay. Jonathan didn't sleep. He spent the entire night in his study, pacing, making calls, pulling together every scrap of evidence Marcus had gathered over the past weeks. By dawn, he had a strategy. By 8 a.m., he was ready for war. He called an emergency meeting of the full board of directors for 10 o'clock. Mandatory attendance, no exceptions. His assistant hesitated when he gave the order. "Mr. Hale?" Mrs. Hale already scheduled a board meeting for this afternoon. She said, "Cancel it. This meeting happens now, my authority." "Yes, sir." At 9:30, Marcus arrived at Jonathan's office with a thick folder and a grim expression. "I found her," the investigator said. "She's at a youth shelter in Brooklyn. Checked in last night using a fake name, but it's definitely her." Relief flooded through Jonathan. "Is she safe?" "For now. But Jonathan, there's more." Marcus set the folder on the desk. "I did what you asked. Looked into Victoria, and what I found." He shook his head. "You need to see this." Jonathan opened the folder. Inside were bank statements, transfer records, phone logs. His eyes scanned the documents, not quite comprehending at first. Then the pieces started coming together, and his blood turned to ice. 20 years ago, Victoria had withdrawn $10,000 in cash from an account Jonathan didn't even know she had. 3 days after Emily disappeared, the withdrawal was followed by a money order made out to a woman named Ruth Brennan, the same woman Marcus had tracked down who'd confessed to delivering a child to St. Catherine's orphanage. "There's more," Marcus said quietly. "Phone records from the day of the disappearance. Victoria made 3 calls to a burner number. That same number was used to contact Ruth Brennan." Jonathan felt like the floor was falling away beneath him. She knew. She knew where Emily was the whole time. Not just knew. She orchestrated it. Marcus pointed to another document. "This is a transcript from an interview with Ruth Brennan before she died last year. She was dying of cancer, wanted to clear her conscience. She told the interviewer about a woman who'd paid her to take a child from Central Park. The description matches Victoria perfectly." Jonathan's hands were shaking. 20 years. 20 years of grief, of guilt, of believing he'd failed his daughter. And all along, Victoria had known. Victoria had done this. The woman he'd married. The woman he'd trusted. The woman who'd shared his home and his bed and his company. She'd stolen his daughter. "There's one more thing," Marcus said. "Those men who threatened Anna, I tracked them down. They were hired by the same crew Victoria's used before for, shall we say, delicate matters. I have recordings of the conversations." Jonathan looked up, his eyes cold and hard. "Send everything to my lawyer. Every document, every recording, every piece of evidence. and make copies. Send them to the police, the DA's office, and the media. Jonathan, are you sure? I'm sure. He stood, straightening his tie. It's time Victoria learned that you can't destroy people's lives without consequences. At 10 o'clock sharp, the board of directors filed into the conference room. Victoria was among them, her expression carefully neutral. She'd clearly expected this to be about Jonathan's mental state, another step in her campaign to undermine him. She was about to learn otherwise. Jonathan stood at the head of the table. Waiting until everyone was seated, the room fell silent. Thank you all for coming on short notice, he began. I know there have been concerns about my recent behavior, questions about my judgment, my mental state, my fitness to lead this company. Victoria's eyes flickered with satisfaction. Several board members shifted uncomfortably. Those concerns were planted deliberately. Jonathan continued, his voice hard, by someone who wanted to discredit me, someone who saw an opportunity to take control of this company by making you all believe I was unstable. Now Victoria's expression shifted to concern. Good. Let her worry. But before we discuss that, I need to tell you all something. 3 weeks ago, I discovered that my daughter who disappeared 20 years ago, is alive. Shocked murmurs rippled through the room. Her name is Emily. She's been living on the streets of New York for the past 10 years. After aging out of an orphanage where she was placed as a child, I have DNA evidence confirming her identity. I have hospital records. I have proof. Richard Chen leaned forward. Jonathan, that's incredible. But what does this have to do with... It has everything to do with it. Jonathan pressed a button, and the screens around the room lit up. Because the person who kidnapped my daughter 20 years ago is sitting in this room right now. All eyes turned. Victoria's face had gone white. That's absurd, she said, her voice steady despite the color draining from her cheeks. Jonathan, I understand you're emotional, but making wild accusations, they're not wild. They're documented. Jonathan nodded to his assistant, who began distributing folders to each board member. 20 years ago, Victoria Hale, then Victoria Chen, withdrew $10,000 in cash. 3 days later, that money was paid to a woman who specialized in illegal adoptions and child trafficking. That woman, Ruth Brennan, confessed before her death to being paid to kidnap a child from Central Park and deliver her to an orphanage in New Jersey. The room was dead silent. You have phone records in front of you, Jonathan continued. Bank statements, a sworn testimony from Ruth Brennan's deathbed confession, and recordings from last week of Victoria hiring the same criminal contacts to threaten my daughter into leaving the city. Victoria stood abruptly. This is ridiculous. Those documents could be fabricated. This whole thing could be some kind of breakdown. Sit down, Victoria. The command in Jonathan's voice made her freeze. You orchestrated my daughter's disappearance so you could swoop in and play savior when I was at my lowest. You married me not out of love, but for access to my company, my wealth, my life. His voice was ice. And when Emily came back, when you realized she might reclaim what was rightfully hers, you tried to make her disappear again. You can't prove any of this, Victoria said, but her voice was shaking now. I already have. The police are waiting outside. The DA has all the evidence, and the media... Jonathan checked his watch. The media has been running the story for the past 20 minutes. Victoria's phone buzzed, then another board member's, and another. Within seconds, everyone was checking their devices, reading the breaking news that was already spreading across the internet. Hale Industries VP arrested in decades-old kidnapping conspiracy. Victoria looked around the room at the faces staring at her with disgust and horror. Her carefully constructed facade crumbled. For just a moment, Jonathan saw the real woman beneath, desperate, vicious, and utterly defeated. You don't understand, she said, her voice cracking. I gave you everything. I stood by you when you had nothing left. I built this company with you. You built nothing, Jonathan said quietly. You stole. You manipulated. You destroyed. And now you're going to pay for it. The conference room doors opened. 2 detectives entered. Badges displayed. Victoria Hale, the first one said. You're under arrest for conspiracy to commit kidnapping, child endangerment, witness intimidation, and conspiracy to commit assault. They read her rights as they cuffed her. Victoria didn't resist. just stared at Jonathan with pure hatred in her eyes. "This isn't over," she hissed as they led her away. "I'll fight this. You'll lose," Jonathan said, "just like you lost everything else." The doors closed behind her. The room remained silent for a long moment. Finally, Richard Chen spoke. "Jonathan, we had no idea." "I know." Jonathan's shoulders sagged suddenly, the adrenaline draining away. "I'm sorry I couldn't tell you sooner. I needed to be sure. Needed all the evidence." "What happens now?" another board member asked. "Now I find my daughter. I bring her home, and I spend the rest of my life making up for the 20 years she suffered." Jonathan looked around the table. "As for the company, I'll be taking a leave of absence. Effective immediately, Richard. You'll serve as interim CEO. Jonathan, my daughter needs me. Everything else can wait." He walked out of the conference room, leaving behind the shocked board members and the empire he'd built. None of it mattered anymore. Only Emily mattered. Jonathan pulled out his phone and called Marcus. "Where's that shelter in Brooklyn? I'll text you the address." "Good. I'm going there now." He had to find his daughter. Had to make her understand that she was safe now, that the threat was gone, that he would never, ever let anyone hurt her again. 20 years of searching, 20 years of grief. It was time to bring Emily home. The shelter was a converted warehouse in Brooklyn, its brick walls covered in faded murals of hope and second chances. Jonathan stood outside for a full minute, his heart hammering so hard he thought it might burst through his chest. 3 days. 3 days since Anna had run from him at the bus station. 3 days of not knowing if she was safe, if she was warm, if she was eating. 3 days of pure hell. But now he knew where she was. And this time, he wouldn't let her slip away. He pushed through the front door. Inside, the shelter was cleaner than he'd expected. Worn, but cared for. A woman in her 50s sat at the front desk, looking up with practiced wariness. "Can I help you?" "I'm looking for someone." A young woman who checked in a few nights ago. Brown hair, mid-20s, probably used a fake name. The woman's expression closed off. "We don't give out information about our residents' privacy policy." "Please," Jonathan's voice cracked. "Her name is Emily. She's my daughter. I just need to talk to her." "Sir, I hear that a lot. Fathers, boyfriends, people claiming to be family. If she wanted you to know where she was, I'm not here to hurt her. I'm here to keep her safe." He pulled out his wallet, showed her his ID. "My name is Jonathan Hale. 3 days ago. My wife was arrested for kidnapping my daughter 20 years ago. It's been all over the news. You can look it up." The woman studied him, then slowly typed something into her computer. Her eyes widened as she read. "Oh my God," she whispered. "That's real. Every word. And the girl you have here, Anna or whatever name she gave you. She's Emily, my daughter. Please, I just need 5 minutes." The woman hesitated, then nodded. "She's in the common room, 3rd door on the left. But if she asks you to leave, you leave. Understood." "Understood." Jonathan walked down the corridor, his legs feeling like water. Through a doorway, he could see a room with mismatched couches, a TV playing quietly, and a dozen women of various ages scattered around. And there, in the corner, sat Anna. She was curled up on a threadbare armchair, knees pulled to her chest, staring at nothing. She looked smaller than he remembered, more fragile. The fluorescent lights made the shadows under her eyes stand out like bruises. Jonathan knocked softly on the doorframe. She looked up, and the moment she saw him, every muscle in her body tensed. "Don't." She held up a hand. "Don't come any closer." He stopped just inside the doorway. "I'm not here to push you into anything. I just need you to listen. Please. I don't want to hear it. 5 minutes, that's all I'm asking. If you still want me to leave after that, I'll go, I promise." Anna's jaw clenched. She looked away, then back at him. Finally, she nodded once sharply. Jonathan moved slowly into the room, sitting down on a couch across from her, far enough to give her space, close enough to see the fear in her eyes. "The woman who threatened you," he began. "Her name was Victoria. She was my wife, and 3 days ago, she was arrested." Anna's eyes widened slightly. "She kidnapped you 20 years ago, paid someone to take you from Central Park and dump you at that orphanage." Jonathan's voice was steady. but his hands trembled. "She did it because she wanted me, wanted my company, and you were in the way. That's..." Anna shook her head. "That's insane." "I know, but it's true. I have proof. Bank records, phone logs, a deathbed confession from the woman she paid. The police have everything. Victoria's in jail right now, and she's not getting out." Anna was quiet for a long moment. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because you need to know you're safe. The men who threatened you worked for her. She hired them to scare you away, because she knew who you were. She knew you were my daughter, and she couldn't let you come back into my life." "Stop saying that." Anna's voice rose. "Stop calling me your daughter. You don't know that." "Yes, I do." Jonathan pulled a folded paper from his jacket pocket. "This is the DNA test. 99th or 99% match. This is your birth certificate. This is a photo of you at 4 years old, wearing that bracelet." He set them on the coffee table between them. "And this is a photo of your mother, Eleanor, my wife, the woman you got your eyes from." Anna stared at the documents but didn't move to touch them. "I know this is overwhelming," Jonathan continued softly. "I know you've spent your whole life not knowing where you came from, who you were, and I know me showing up claiming to be your father sounds like a fairy tale or a nightmare. But it's the truth, Emily. Don't call me that. That's your name. Emily Rose Hale, born May 15th, 25 years ago, at Mount Sinai Hospital. Your mother sang you Beatles songs when you couldn't sleep. Your favorite food was mac and cheese with dinosaur-shaped nuggets. You were obsessed with yellow flowers, dandelions especially. You used to pick them in the park and bring them to your mom in little bouquets." Anna's breath caught. Her hand went unconsciously to her bracelet. "And every night before bed," Jonathan's voice broke, "I would sing you a song I wrote just for you, Crystal Moon. Guard my dreams." "Stop," Anna whispered. Tears were streaming down her face. "Please stop. I can't stop. I've been looking for you for 20 years, every day, every night, wondering if you were alive, if you were safe, if you remembered us at all." Jonathan leaned forward. "I failed you once. I looked away for 1 second, and you were gone. I've lived with that guilt every single day since. But I'm here now, and I'm not going anywhere. Not ever again." Anna was shaking, her arms wrapped around herself. "I don't remember you. I don't remember any of it. I know, but maybe that's okay. We can make new memories, starting right now. I don't know how to do this." Her voice was small, broken. "I don't know how to be someone's daughter. I've been alone so long. I don't know how to be anything else." Jonathan's heart shattered. "You don't have to know. We'll figure it out together. What if I'm not who you think I am? What if I'm too broken, too messed up from living on the streets? What if I can't be the daughter you lost?" "You already are." Jonathan's voice was fierce. "You're brave. You survived 20 years of hell and you're still here. You're still fighting. That's all I need." "That's everything." Anna looked at him then, really looked at him, searching his face for lies, for cracks in his story. But all she saw was a man who'd spent 2 decades grieving, who'd finally found what he'd lost. You really believe I'm her? You're Emily? I don't believe it. I know it." Jonathan stood slowly, holding out his hand. "Come home, please. Let me give you the life you should have had all along." Anna stared at his outstretched hand, at this stranger who claimed to be her father, at the impossible possibility that maybe, just maybe, she wasn't alone after all. "I'm scared," she whispered. "I know. I'm scared too. Scared I'll mess this up. Scared I'll fail you again. But I'm more scared of losing you a second time." Jonathan's eyes were wet. "Please, Emily, come home." Slowly, so slowly, Anna uncurled from the chair. Her hand trembled as she reached out. Their fingers touched, and something electric passed between them. Recognition deeper than memory, older than words. "Okay," she breathed. "Okay." And then she was in his arms, and Jonathan was holding his daughter for the first time in 20 years. She sobbed against his chest, her whole body shaking, while he held her like she was made of glass. "I've got you," he whispered into her hair. "I've got you, baby girl. You're safe now. You're home." Around them, the other shelter residents watched with tears in their eyes. Even the tough ones, the ones who'd seen everything, were crying at the sight of this reunion. Anna pulled back slightly, looking up at him with red, swollen eyes. What happens now? Jonathan smiled through his tears. Now we go home, and we start healing. Together. I don't have anything. No clothes, no stuff. We'll get you everything you need. Whatever you want. I don't even know what I want. That's okay. We have time to figure it out. He cupped her face gently. We have all the time in the world. Anna managed a watery smile. Can I still be Anna sometimes? Just until I get used to Emily. You can be whoever you want to be, as long as you're mine. Yours, Anna repeated, testing the word then, softer. Yours. They walked out of the shelter together, father and daughter, stepping into the afternoon sunlight. The world hadn't changed. The city was still loud and chaotic and indifferent, but everything was different. Because after 20 years of searching, of hoping, of never giving up, Jonathan had found his daughter, and this time, he was never letting go. 6 months later, the afternoon sun poured through the floor-to-ceiling windows of Jonathan's mansion, painting everything in shades of gold. Emily stood in what had become her room, a space Jonathan had carefully prepared, but let her design herself. The walls were pale yellow now. Her choice. Photographs lined the shelves, some old ones Jonathan had saved, showing a little girl she didn't remember being, and new ones they'd taken together over the past months. She was different now, still thin but healthier. Her hair was clean and cut, falling in soft waves around her shoulders. She wore jeans and a sweater that actually fit, clothes she'd picked out herself on one of their shopping trips. But the biggest change was in her eyes. They still carried shadows, probably always would, but there was light there now too. Hope. The silver bracelet still circled her wrist. She'd never take it off. Emily heard footsteps and turned to find Jonathan in the doorway, holding 2 mugs of tea. It had become their ritual. Afternoon tea and conversation. A quiet space where she could talk about her therapy sessions, her online classes, her slowly rebuilding life. How was Dr. Morrison today? Jonathan asked, handing her a mug. Emily curled up in the window seat, looking out over the garden. Hard. We talked about the nightmares again. The nightmares had started a month ago. Fragmented memories of the kidnapping, of being taken from the park, of the orphanage. Dr. Morrison said it was normal. Her mind finally feeling safe enough to process the trauma. Do you want to talk about it? Jonathan sat in the chair across from her, giving her space. Not really, but she says I should. Emily took a sip of tea. I remembered something new today. Yellow flowers, dandelions. I was picking them, and someone, you, I guess, were laughing, saying I was making you a bouquet. Jonathan's eyes grew wet. You used to do that all the time. Bring your mother fistfuls of weeds and present them like they were roses? Emily smiled. Were you guys happy before everything? We were. Jonathan's voice was soft. Your mother was incredible, strong, funny, kind. You would have loved her. I wish I remembered her. Me too. But she's still with you. In your laugh, in your stubbornness, in the way you notice small things. He paused. She would be so proud of you, Emily, of who you've become despite everything. They sat in comfortable silence for a moment. This was still new for both of them. This relationship. This tentative rebuilding of father and daughter. Some days were easier than others. Some days Emily still called him Jonathan instead of Dad. Some days she still woke up panicking, thinking she was back on the streets. But they were trying. That's what mattered. I got an email from the foundation today, Emily said. They want me to speak at the fundraiser next month. Jonathan had established the Emily Hale Foundation 3 months ago, dedicated to helping homeless youth, improving orphanage oversight, and reuniting missing children with their families. It had become his new purpose, his way of turning their tragedy into something that could help others. You don't have to if you're not ready, Jonathan said carefully. I know, but I think I want to. Other kids who've been through what I went through, they need to know it's possible to survive, to heal. She looked at him. To find your way home. Pride swelled in Jonathan's chest. Your mother would say that's very brave, or very stupid. Sometimes those are the same thing. Emily laughed, a sound that still surprised Jonathan every time he heard it. For so long he'd thought he'd never hear his daughter laugh again. What about you? Emily asked. How's the company? Jonathan had returned to work part-time last month, with Richard Chen remaining as CEO. The arrangement worked well. Jonathan provided strategic guidance, but his priority was Emily, not quarterly earnings. Good. We're finalizing the contract with that nonprofit in Brooklyn, the one that runs the shelter where I found you. That's good. They helped me when I needed it. I know. That's why I want to help them. Jonathan set down his tea. Actually, there's something I wanted to talk to you about. Something I've been thinking about for a while. Emily tensed slightly. She still did that when conversations turned serious. It's nothing bad, Jonathan assured her. I promise I just wanted to know. How would you feel about visiting your mother's grave together? Emily was quiet for a long moment. I've never been there. I know. And if you're not ready, that's okay. But I thought maybe it would help. To say hello. To tell her you're home. Tears welled in Emily's eyes. Yeah, I'd like that. They went the following Sunday. The cemetery was peaceful, tucked away in Westchester, far from the city's chaos. Eleanor's grave was under a willow tree, just like she'd wanted. Eleanor Grace Hale, beloved wife and mother, her love remains forever. Jonathan knelt and placed fresh flowers, yellow roses this time. Eleanor's favorite. Emily stood beside him, staring at the headstone. Hi, Mom, she whispered. I know I don't remember you, but Dad tells me stories. Says I have your eyes. She wiped at her tears. I'm sorry it took me so long to visit. I got lost for a while. But I'm home now, and I'm okay. We're okay. Jonathan put his arm around her shoulders, and Emily leaned into him. They stayed like that for a long time, father and daughter saying goodbye and hello at the same time. On the drive home, Emily was quiet. Then, suddenly, can I ask you something? Anything. Victoria, what happened to her? Jonathan's jaw tightened. Victoria had been sentenced to 25 years in prison. The trial had been brutal. All the evidence laid bare. Her crimes exposed for the world to see. She'd tried to claim insanity. Tried to blame Jonathan. Tried everything. But the jury had seen through it all. She's in prison, Jonathan said, and she'll stay there for a very long time. Do you ever think about going to see her? No, never. He glanced at Emily. Do you want to? Emily shook her head. I don't know. Sometimes I think I should hate her more. She destroyed my life, your life, Mom's life. But mostly I just feel nothing, like she's not worth the energy. That's probably healthier than hate. Doctor, Morrison says the same thing. They drove in silence for a while. Then Emily said, I'm glad she didn't win. That's what I think about most. She tried to erase me, tried to make me disappear, but I'm still here. We're still here. Yes, Jonathan said. We are. That evening, they sat together in the garden behind the mansion. The sun was setting, painting the sky in brilliant oranges and pinks. Jonathan picked up his guitar, the same one he'd used 25 years ago to write a lullaby for his infant daughter. I've been practicing something, he said. Thought maybe we could try it together. Emily smiled. The song. Jonathan strummed the opening chords, and Emily's voice joined his, tentative at first but growing stronger. Crystal moon, guard my dreams. Take me far away, where fear can't reach me. Hold me close when night falls down. Keep me safe until the morning comes around. Their voices blended together, his deep and steady, hers soft but sure. It was the same song he'd sung to her as a baby, the same melody she'd hummed on the streets when she had nothing else. Now it was theirs again, a bridge between past and present, loss and recovery. When the last notes faded, Emily wiped her eyes. I remember that song meaning safety, even when I didn't remember anything else. I remembered that. It will always mean safety, Jonathan promised. Because you are safe, here with me, home. Emily looked at him. This man who'd never stopped searching, who'd spent 20 years refusing to give up hope. Her father. I love you. Dad, she said. The first time she'd said it without hesitation, without fear. Jonathan's voice broke. I love you too, baby girl. Always have, always will. They sat together as the sun disappeared below the horizon, as the stars began to emerge one by one. The city hummed in the distance. full of its usual chaos and indifference. But here, in this garden, there was peace. After 20 years of darkness, of searching, of grief so deep it seemed impossible to survive, they had found each other again, and finally,